Hello everyone, my name is Felipe and as you can see we are back for a new video, and this time it's part 3 of the setup guide, which has been requested a lot this last few days, but yeah, it's finally out, and now you can see how to change a setup from time trial to a race setup. So that's all about yeah, that's the main point of this video. So this video is going to be all about how to change the time trial setup for a race setup, which is quite important, I think, because you don't want overheating and you don't want a lot of oversteer in the race and etc. So it's gonna be all about how to change and what to change on the setup to make it feels better, like more controllable, you know. So yeah, let's make it happen. And yeah, I'd like to talk about the points of this video, because you can change the suspension, the anti-roll bar, the differential. You can change pretty much everything, the setup. It's gonna make a difference in the car. So there are certain levels of like changing on the car. So if you change suspension, it's gonna change a lot, and if you change anti-roll bar, it's gonna change just a little bit. And if you change geometry, for example, it's gonna change even less than anti-roll bar, you know. So it's important to know some things about this circuit you're gonna race. Like as I've already said, if you have really high curbs like Spa, for example, and you really wanna use higher ride height, and yeah, if you have Hungary, for example, you really wanna use low anti-roll bar to have a good traction and low rear suspension also. So this video is gonna be all about it, and yeah, let's head into it. I hope everyone liked this video. It's a really long one and it's taken a long time. So I like to also talk that in the description of this video you will see yeah, a document which you can download or just see it on your PC about setups. So it's pretty much everything there is quite simple to understand, so I'd like to make this document a reading document so you can really read it and understand it quite easily. So make sure to check it out, it's on the description. And yeah, now let's go for the video. I started talking about Bahrain because it's the first track on the calendar, and most of the people are gonna race there. And you could see there the time trial setup, which is, I wouldn't say oversteer, but it's quite weird. Mainly the suspension. So you can see now 6-9 wings, which is, I would say, normal. You have a good like a good straight line speed, and yeah, you can keep with everyone basically. So if you want to change to 6-10, maybe it's fine. You will have more stability, a lot more stability actually. So wings change more than suspension, I'd say. And about the differential on the car, 54 is the minimum. I wouldn't recommend it because you can overheat the tires on this track, especially on the first laps on the soft car. And about this suspension now, 2.5, 2.6. So I would also always recommend you to use around 1 on the front suspension and 1 on the front right height. Not right height, sorry, the anti-roll bar, because it gives you a better turn-in, you know, so you can kind of compensate these things, which is gonna overheat a little bit more the tires, changing my other things. So when you see now 1.6 suspension, 2.3 right anti-roll bar actually, and 2.7 or 2.6 right height. So I've decreased the anti-roll bar to have a bit more traction, so I have a better traction out of the corners, especially low speed corners. And I've increased the suspension because I've lost rotation by decreasing anti-roll bar, but I've gained rotation by increasing the rear suspension and decreasing the front suspension. So it's all about changing one thing, going on track and see what happens, changing another thing and see what happens. So I've already explained what happens when you change every part of the setup on part 1 and 2. So now it's all about showing you some race setups. So you can see now the time trial setup from Simon in Spain, which is a really hard track for the tires, you know, a lot of long corners, and yeah, everywhere you have corners, so the tires really suffers. And you can see now, especially the tires are quite different. The minimum on the fronts and there are maximum at the rears. so it makes you overheat more the rears because you slide a lot with maximum rear pressure. But yeah, the wings now you can see you can use 911, 711, 811. You know, it's quite yeah, it's quite different to other tracks where you have yeah, more fixed rings, you know, like 6, 9 Bahrain. But now you can use 711, 811, 10, 1011 also. It really depends on what you really want. If you want to be fast in the third sector, for example, you want more rings, and if you want to be faster in the straight line, you want less wings. You know, so I would recommend you to decrease the front wing because the rear wing you really need it around this track. And yeah, the suspension, if you increase front toe, you will have more turn-in, but a bit more oversteer. And if you increase rear toe, you will have a little bit more stability, but more tire wear. So that's fair enough. And the suspension, you can see, going from 1.7, and like I will decrease it because this track is quite, I'd say it's quite hard on the tires, so you can overheat them quite easily. So for a race setup, you don't really want to overheat. So I would decrease it to 1.3, for example, maybe 1.4, you know, 1.5. So less than 1.6, I would say it's good for a race, you know. And if you feel like it's overheating a little bit too much, just decrease it a little bit, you know, by one click or something. And the anti-roll bar 1.6 there, it went from 1.7 to 1.6. So I have a better traction out of the corners, but I still have the rotation, you know. And about the tires, I will not use the minimum on the front as I have a lot of turn-in, so I won't have turn-in on the front tires. And the rear tires I've decreased like by 2 clicks because it helps. It won't have that much rotation, but it helps in the race. So now coming to Monaco, so you can see Josh's setup. It's 1110 wings, quite different. 54 off differential. And yeah, the geometry is quite mixed there, but the suspension 1, 2, 4, 2, 1, 6. So that's the main point of the setup. Wings, differential and suspension, and tires also. And yeah, I'd like to talk about the suspension mainly because when you are at Monaco, it's quite easy to overheat, I'd say, because you get some points where you are in the race and you really need to push to not be undercutted by a car who pitted one lap earlier or something. So you don't want to overheat, and I'll show what's changed. So the wings mainly, I wouldn't use 10 rear wing. I think it's too low for Monaco. You really need downforce on the car. So maybe 11-11, 10-11, you know, 9-11. It really depends on what you really want in the setup. And the differential 70-58. I wouldn't recommend 70 also because it's too low. You know, for a race it's too low. I would recommend between 80 and 100. And the off throttle differential, I would recommend from 55 to 58 because lower than 55, it's a lot more rotation than you really need. You know, so you will rotate a lot the car, but on no tires it's gonna overheat. Alright, so now suspension. I decrease the front anti-roll bar because there's no need to use 4, I think. If you have a really oversteer setup as the time trial one had, for example, 10 rear ring, you can use 4 on the front anti-roll bar. But I've decreased it to have more rotation and more control of the car. And the suspension 1.4 also, I've increased it because I changed the wings from 10 to 11, so I will have a lot more stability. So I need somewhere, I need to get the rotation somewhere, and that was from the suspension and the anti-roll bar mainly. And now the tires, it was on minimum, and now it's 21.4 and 21.1, which is gonna make the car a little bit more, I would say, controllable. I don't know if that's the word, but you can feel more the car on your hand. So that's gonna be better for a race. Now you can see Azerbaijan. That's the circuit I like to show also. You can see the time trial setup, 9.6 wings, and yeah, now 9.6 wings. It's quite high front wing for this track, I'd say. So you will probably see something on the setup which is quite understeery. 55 of differential, which is what I recommend for most of the tracks. Geometry now right, right, left, left, which is okay. It's quite different from right, left, 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 as I'm showing you now, because it gives you less tire wear going for the left on the rear camber, so I prefer it. And suspension 5588, so it's quite different, and it's actually a lot understeery, because as much as you increase the front suspension and the front roll bar, the most oversteer the car becomes. So it is quite understeered, so that's why he's using 9.6 wings, for example. So you can really have the rotation from the front, and yeah, I really recommend you to use over or less than 9.6 wings. So I will just skip it. And the differential from 55 to 56 to have a bit more stable car in the race, you know. And the geometry now, just going left on the rear camber because I feel better about it. The car is quite more comfortable for me to drive. And the suspension 1.5 and 1.2, 1.3, 2.3, 2.5, you know. So you can really change it, because as it was really understeered, the setup, to avoid overheating on the rear tires, it would overheat the front tires, so I need to decrease the front suspension anti-roll bar, and I went to 1.5, 2.3. So 2.3 is gonna give me a really good rotation and a really good traction, and 1.5, 1.6 suspension, as I'm changing there, was gonna give me a really good rotation, you know, for the corners. And now the tires, I've increased the front tires. I don't feel like it really overheats on this track, and I've decreased the rear tires pressures because it can really overheat in the race at this track, you know. So it's important to decrease it to make sure you are safe in the race about overheating and stuff. So yeah, actually this video I won't go through the track to show you, because I've already done it the past 2 videos. So it's just about showing some tracks, you know, Monaco, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, and yeah, this kind of tracks which you have really different ways to change the setup. Bahrain, you need a straight line speed and downforce. Monaco, you don't need straight line speed at all, and you need downforce to make corners. And now Italy, you can see now 5.3 wings, which is really low. 5.3. Obviously, Italy, the fastest track on the calendar, so you really need low downforce. And the suspension now 7.4.19.26. So it is quite weird, I would say, because 7.4 on the front suspension, yeah, 7.4 on the suspension is really weird. You don't really want to use 7 on the front, because it's not the best one you can use, right? But as it's using a really low rear wing, you need to increase something to make the car more understeery, you know. So in this case, it's the 7.4 suspension, and you can see you can go really different wings on Italy. For example, 5.4. 5.4 is gonna give you a good turn-in and a good stability, you know, and depending on the rest of the setup. 55 of differential, which is the most common one. And suspension, I would say you can use 2.4, 1.4, 1.3. So it's gonna be a lot more oversteered than Force, than 7.4, for example. And I've decreased the anti-roll bar to make it better on the traction, as you have a bit, yeah, a low speed corner at turn 1, which you really need the traction to not be overtaken before the second chicane. And the tires, I've decreased it just a little bit, so I can avoid overheating also, especially the right tires, not the right, oh sorry, the left tires, as this track's most all about turning for the right, you know. So now a complete different kind of setup, which is Singapore. So Singapore, you really need the downforce and avoid overheating. So you can see the time trial setup, 11.11 wings, 10.54, not 10, 70, sorry, 70.54 differential. Geometry is quite normal, just a little bit of frontal to give you more turning. On time trial, you can really do that. And suspension 3.1.18.27. So the 3.1 is to avoid overheating on the rears, so you go for 1. And obviously in time trial you can use a really aggressive setup, so you can go 54 differential, for example. I would increase it to 55, 56 maybe, to make it better for the race. And I would also increase the on throttle differential to like 100, between 90 and 100. And the geometry I would decrease it because it's better, and I would also increase a little bit the rear toe because it gives you more stability, which you can read on the document I left in the description. So if you are still here in the video, make sure to check the documents below in the description. Yeah, it's all written there, so you don't need to watch the videos anymore. You can read and understand the setup quite easily. And the suspension 1214, so it's really low compared to other tracks, like you will use 17, 16. Now it's using 1214, so it's everything about avoiding the overheating, you know. So I've decreased a lot the tire pressures because I need to avoid overheating. So the car can't really turn a lot by the tires, so I've increased some other things like the rear anti-roll bar, for example, to make it better, but not too much, only 4, because I really need the traction. So yeah, I know this video can be quite boring sometimes, I'd say, but yeah, it's all about how to change the setup for a race, you know. So now I'll go for Japan, which I am quite up on the the time trial. I'm P9 at the moment, so you can see a virus setup, which is a really good setup, I would say, not only for time trial but for the race also. 9-7 wings. 7 is gonna give you a good stability, and 9 also good turn-in. And the geometry, just a little bit of front toe, which gives you more rotation, and it's not bad in the race. It doesn't overheat that much, at least in my opinion. Suspension 1611 to 6, so you get the rotation from the front wing, which is 9, and you also get the rotation from the tires. You can see it's all on maximum, and you get the rotation from suspension, which is 16, and the anti-roll bar is 11. So you can really force the tires to have a really good traction, you know, by going minimum. So as low as you go in the anti-roll bar, you will get better traction out of the corners. And on this track you don't really need that good traction, I would say, because you only have the last chicane and the hairpin, which you really need the traction, you know. And yeah, I really need the good traction from the second chicane, not the second, but the last chicane of the track, because you have a straight line just after that corner. So it's really important to have a good traction there and make sure no one overtakes you before turn 1, and you can keep your position. So for a race setup, I wouldn't change much on this setup, to be honest. I would only change the tire pressure because it's on the maximum, and personally I don't like it. But yeah, you can see now I'm changing suspension a bit. 1.3, maybe 1.2, 1.4 to be better on the curbs. Also, it helps. It doesn't rotate that much, and you can avoid spinning a lot. So yeah, I went from 1.6, 1.1 to 1.4, 1.3. So I took 2 clicks on the suspension, and I've moved it to the rear anti-roll bar, you know. And yeah, that's all about setups. I think I've done a setup guide, which is 3 videos, and yeah, these 3 videos has been really insane and really difficult to make. So I would really appreciate if you could like this video, share it, subscribe to my channel. But yeah, that's all about the setups, all I know about the setups. And I know there's gonna be a new update on the game soon, and I will also make a new setup guide for that one. I just need it out, and yeah, I'll post it like 1 week after they're released. And yeah, that's everything. I think you can also read the document I left below, so you can go in the description and you can download the document, so you can have a better knowledge about the setups, which is quite simple. The document I just some words there showing which part of the setup does some things and which doesn't do, you know. So it's really simple. to understand it. So I decided to make a written document, just to make it easier for everyone. So yeah, thank you everyone for the support. It's been amazing, you know. I've had a lot of comments on the last videos, and a lot of people are really excited for this setup guides. So yeah, I'm really pleased about that, and yeah, make sure to like the video, subscribe it, share it also, and yeah, subscribe. Also follow my Twitch channel, which is in the description, also right below the document, a link. So it's gonna help me a lot. We are almost at 1k there, and we've just reached 1.2k, and here on YouTube, you know. So thank you very much for that one. And yeah, see you soon. Take care, and I hope everyone liked this video and this setup guide series. So bye bye everyone, see you next video.